Good evening, everyone. The August 28th, 2018 meeting of the Marion County School Board is called to order. For the courtesy of all those listening, I am requesting everyone in the audience please turn off your electronic devices or put them on vibrate. Later in the meeting, up to 30 minutes will be provided for individuals to address the board on matters concerning the operation of the Marion County school system or the school board only. Presentations to the board are limited to 5 minutes and they are televised. If you wish to address the board regarding an irregular agenda item or matters on which the board customarily takes action, you must first complete a peach form located on the table in the hallway. If you wish to address the board regarding a public hearing or a student discipline matter, please complete a lime green form. These forms must be fully completed and received by the board secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. The procedures applicable for each are on a separate sheet. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Kelly King, District 5.
Here.
Mrs. Nancy Stacy, District 1.
Here.
Mr. Bobby James, District 3.
Here.
Ms. Angie Boynton, District 4.
Here.
Mrs. Beth McCall, District 2.
Here.
Dr. Heidi Mayer, Superintendent.
Here.
Mr. Paul Gibbs, School Board Attorney.
Here.
Great. Ms. Joanne Crowder, Fine Arts Program Specialist, please introduce the individuals who will be providing the inspiration and leading us in the pledge this evening.
Good evening, Board Chair Ms. McCall, Vice Chair Ms. Boynton, board members, Superintendent Dr. Mayer, Ms. Martinez Lopez, and Mr. Gibbs, and our guests. I'm very excited to introduce 4 student artists who will be recognized this evening as winners of a poster contest for our state motto, In God We Trust. We have Cooper Gumpert of 8th Street Elementary, Estelle Vaughn, Osceola Middle School, Meadow LaRue of North Marion Middle, and Onisha Johnson of Denellen High School. Hey, Cooper, come up here first.
They can speak, yeah, and they can stand right beside.
I was inspired by a fabric cloth hanging in the library with American symbols on it. The American flag is the most popular symbol.
Can we put them behind there? This might help.
Okay.
I was inspired by a fabric cloth hanging in the library with American symbols on it. The American flag is the most popular symbol, so I wanted to draw it.
Art has always been a big part in my life, and for as long as I can remember. And I was really easily inspired by Florida's great features like the orange groves, the white sandy beaches, and the great diversity in this state.
What inspired me to do my art project was the the art within our beautiful Sunshine State. When it comes down to the beautiful colors of our sunsets and the differences of our wildflowers, I see that there is art in everything, and I chose to show it in my drawing.
She stands tall above our land, looks not down but towards a brighter future. She is a woman of little words, but displays strong action as she welcomes home the young, the old, the rich, the poor, and the fallen. A mother whose hand reaches up towards to touch God's, yet never fails to say, "Well done," to her children. Humbled, speak not ill of her, for my art holds her no justice. She is not just an inspiration in medium, but one that has touched this great nation without a presence to move, but a man to tears. For over 14 decades, living to tell the truths of this nation. Stand tall in liberty was my message. Stand tall in everything was hers.
our Pledge of Allegiance.
Would anybody like to say, can you keep the kids up here just a minute?
I was saving the posters for their recognition, but would you like to see them now?
Yes,
Okay.
we would like to see their posters. Kevin, can you move them down? Okay. You take their picture and then you can turn around.
You guys will stand there with your posters when we take a picture. Everybody look right here. Smile real big. Okay, moms and dads, picture time.
Pretty good?
Boys and girls, if you'll just turn around, face them.
Wow. Thank you. Those are absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for your creation. We're very proud of all of you. Thank you. Your Statue of Liberty is stunning.
I'm so proud of you all. That is wonderful.
It's amazing. For someone who, I don't have any artistic flair about me, I'm just so impressed.
Mr. James?
You know, every time I see your art and I see something that people have taken a lot of time and put a lot of love in what you guys are doing, I always try and get the school board to put them on display in the office so we can see them, let everybody that walk through here for a few minutes can see them. If they, when we look at artists, I look at you guys and y'all really have done an outstanding job. So I would like for y'all to, let's put it on display so your artists can put your work on display at the county office so people can see it for about a week or two, and then we'll get it back to you, because I just think those are beautiful. And I just want to say, hey, job well done.
Job well done. Thank you all so much. Thank
And
you.
I'd like to share with the board and with all of you that we've had other school districts reaching out to us. They want to replicate our poster contest. So your work will be sent in a sample packet to other school districts. So boys and girls all over the state will be looking at your work. So you are the first to do this. Also, Congressman Neil Dunn has asked that we send him copies of your work. He wants to hang it in his office in the Capitol. So your work will be displayed in the Capitol.
That is awesome.
You represent us well. You are an example of what's right in Marion County Public Schools.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Huh? What? Oh, yes, you all are dismissed. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for sharing them with us.
With the exception of item C 18.2, which has been withdrawn entirely from the agenda, and item C 19.1 that has been placed under discussion, I recommend approval of the agenda for the August 28th, 2018 school board meeting with the materials in the board packet. Those materials distributed to board members at the meeting, and the audio recording included as part of the official record of the meeting.
Thank you. May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation? Moved by Ms. Boynton,
Second.
seconded by Ms. James. Is there any discussion? If none, then all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to remove the table, approve the minutes for the June 7th, 2018 administrative briefing and work session.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. King,
Second.
second by Ms. Boynton. There's no discussion. All those in favor, please vote aye. And opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. The motion now on the floor is to approve the minutes for the June 7th, 2018 administrative briefing and work session. These minutes were tabled in error at the August 14th, 2018 board meeting. The concerns expressed by Mrs. King were actually for the June 12th, 2018 school board meeting minutes. So is there further discussion on June 7th? All right, I will call for the vote then. All those in favor of approving the June 7th board minutes, please vote aye, and like those opposed, like sign. It hasn't come, oh, there we go, okay. And the motion passed 5-0. Now, may I have a motion to amend Section 5.1 of the June 12, 2018 school board meeting minutes that were adopted at the 14th, 2018 school board meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. King,
Second.
seconded by Mr. James. Ms. King, do you have any further discussion?
Nope, Elena and I took care of it.
Okay, you've gotten that. Okay, good. So if not, all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Okay, and the motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the June 21st, 2018 administrative briefing and work session?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James, seconded by Ms. Boynton. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes? If none, all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the June 25th, 2018 special administrative briefing and work session?
Moved.
Moved by Ms. Boynton, seconded by Ms. King. Is there any discussion or corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. Ms. Judy Zanetti, Public Education Foundation Officer, would like to recognize Duke Energy for a $20,000 grant awarded to the Public Education Foundation of Marion County in support of the Duke Energy STEM STARS program at Anthony, Dunellen, and Fessenden Elementary Schools.
Thank you, Mrs. McCall. It's good to be here. Superintendent, Mayor, and school board members, thank you for allowing me to take a few moments of your time this evening. With me this evening, I have Dorothy Pernew from Duke Energy, and I've been working with Dorothy now for 3 years. This is the third year that we have done Duke Energy STEM Stars. So we now have this program at 9 Marion County elementary schools, and as Mrs. McCall said, this year we have added Anthony, Fessenden, and Dunellen Elementaries. And this allows the students to have a plethora of materials that the school would probably otherwise be unable to purchase. They have hydroponic growing tables, they have digital microscopes, they have Kiva planks, they're dissecting owl pellets and looking at those under the digital microscopes. It is really so much fun to see how engaged the students are and how they're cooperative and learning together and really taking responsibility for their own learning during this Duke Energy STEM Star program. Also with me this evening is Matt Johnson, principal of Anthony Elementary School, so they are just starting off, and Shamika Murphy from Legacy Elementary School. Legacy was one of the previous schools to receive the grant, but she came tonight just to be part of this celebration with us as well, so I'm honored to have them here. Ms. Pernew, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Judy. It really is our privilege to be able to support Marion County. The education grant cycle for Duke Energy's foundation is the largest investment that we make in the state of Florida. This upcoming school year, we'll be making a $1.6 million investment into our schools for education and following STEM. I cover 6 counties, and in this region, we are able to put $120,000 into our school system. And remember that any of these dollars also get matched by the Consortium for Florida Education. And that makes that power of that money even greater. Here in Marion County, it's a $20,000 grant. But I have to say, this past year, I went with Judy to tour Reddick Collier to see how they were using the tools. And if you have not had the opportunity to do that yet, I would really encourage you to see that. The teachers so highly engaged in how they were interacting with the students, and then watching, I always say it's the light bulbs going off in the kids' minds. I'm right? You know, when they're actually touching the owl pellets and they're pulling them apart, or working with the cubes, or answering questions on the hydroponic garden. It was really very, very enlightening. And these are our future leaders. These are the future people that will be contributing to our communities in the future. And it's truly our pleasure. I'm really excited that we've got representation here from a past school, but a new user as well as a new school. And thank you very much, Judy, for the continued partnership.
Well, thank you, and I think Mr. Johnson's going to say something on behalf of all of our principals.
We just wanted to thank Duke Energy for their contribution, and I'm so excited to get to use the stuff like it's very new to our school, but the hydroponic table just got put together recently, and it's already the focal point of the 5th grade classroom. So I'm excited to get that thing going, and we just can't thank them enough for their contribution.
And I just wanted to add that I had a great meeting recently with Michael Cullen from the Elementary Education Department. And so we talked about this Duke Energy STEM grant. And so he'll be working with me as we write the grant for next year to see how we can enhance this program in the 9 schools where it already exists. So I appreciate his support and the support of the school district as we continue to roll this out. Okay, you all ready for the big picture? Okay.
Come up here.
Well, that's a big number.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pernew, so much. Ms. Lindsay Barber, Secondary Program Specialist for Social Studies, would like to recognize the following outstanding Social Studies Teacher of the Year.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Mayor. Selection of the 2018 Social Studies Teachers of the Year is a tradition in Marion County Public Schools. The award recognizes social studies teachers who have a passion for the content and promote social studies throughout their school and community. The recipients recognized this evening join a group of distinguished teachers and former teachers like two of our current directors, Mr. McAteer and Mr. Whitehouse, who are really charged with keeping social studies education on the forefront of public education. The selection process began in April when the nomination period opened. Administrators, fellow faculty members, and anyone in the community, including non-school employees like parents and students, could nominate teachers. During May, the nomination information was evaluated by representatives of the Daughters of the American Revolution and Fort King Heritage Association, and they used a rubric to select the winners. All three will be recognized formally at the 2018 Florida Council for the Social Studies Conference in Orlando this October. So at this time, it's my pleasure to recognize the 2018 Marion County Public Schools Social Studies Teachers of the Year. The Elementary Social Studies Teacher of the Year is Ms. Jamie Grace. Ms. Grace was inspired to go into teaching by her personal love of learning and by the desire to instill that love in children. She's been teaching for 14 years, most of them at Fort McCoy School, and this year she has transferred to Harbor View Elementary School. Ms. Grace has the pleasure of teaching social studies to 3rd and 5th graders, which focuses on the beginnings of American history. She loves teaching social studies because she believes it's important for children to know how their country started in order to make important decisions about government policies in the future. Wow, you're welcome. Go on up here. The Middle School Social Studies Teacher of the Year is Ms. Kishana Clemens. Ms. Clemens was inspired to go into teaching at a young age. Growing up, she recalls playing school with her younger sisters. She's been teaching 8th grade U.S. history and world history at Osceola Middle School for 4 years. She really has the gift of compassion and wants all students to have a voice in her classroom. Her ability to understand the obstacles her students face helps her earn their respect. She says, "Social studies is my favorite subject. Since being in education, I've learned that if you're passionate about a subject, you can get your students excited about learning. I enjoy teaching students how to think and understand social studies." The High School Social Studies Teacher of the Year is Mr. Brian Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson has been a teacher for 13 years and at Bellevue High School for the last 3 years, teaching a variety of ACE social studies courses. His goal is for students to move beyond just memorization of history into application, critical thinking, causation, and argumentation, which are really life skills. To him, the goal of history class is to connect the past with modern issues in order to guide the future. He says, "I want to have the same kind of influence on my students that members of my family had on me when they encouraged me to choose a career I would be proud to do every day." So those are our 3 representatives who will be recognizing Marion County at the Florida Council for the Social Studies Conference this October. So we'll give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
Can y'all turn around? Oh, I'm sorry, we still have pictures going? Oh. Wait. Mr. James.
Actually, social studies was my minor, and I always think about how exciting it can be. And for somebody to bring something that happened in the past and make it come alive has always been rewarding to me. And I just want to congratulate you guys on being the great storytellers, because you really have to tell a story to keep our kids involved with all this technology and things. So I want to congratulate y'all on a job well done. Okay.
Thank you so much. Ms. Stacy, are you good?
You know, I do have something to say. Social studies and history interest me. But what concerns me about history today is how it has been altered from the way it really happened. And I would like to see our social studies teachers going back into the documents of the Library of the Congress and back into the 1800s and get the real history. Because a lot of what is being taught today is not real. One of the major things that concerns me is Black history. It's my biggest concern. Because had it not been, this is a fact, had it not been for a Black slave who fought for America in the Revolution, James Armistead, who used to be in my children's history books, right here in this district, that is no longer in those history books today. Had it not been him acting as a double spy, the United States probably would be under the King's rule today. Look into James Armistead. James Armistead Lafayette ended up being his name. He took Lafayette's name at the end of the war. He actually is buried, I believe, in Virginia. He actually received a benefit, a retirement type benefit, from the military. And I don't know why this is, but it's time that we teach truth to our children, because we have some black heroes that are not being recognized. Thank you.
I'm not going to give you any homework. I'm just going to say I'm really proud of you, and thank you so much for representing our county so well and for giving your love of history to our kids, because it is so very important. Thank you. Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the proclamation recognizing September 17th as U.S. Constitution Day and the month of September as American Founders Month? Moved by Ms. King,
Second.
second by Mr. James. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Vote passed 5-0. Mr. Kevin Christian, Public Relations Officer and TV and Media Productions Director, and representatives of the Daughters of the American Revolution, please come forward for the reading and presentation of the proclamation.
I think it's obvious who those ladies are.
Yes,
Right
and
here on the front row.
And would you please introduce them, or let them introduce
I will
themselves?
have them introduce
Okay,
themselves,
thank you.
absolutely.
I'm Rochelle Jarofsky. I'm the regent of the Ocala chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I am so pleased to be here. Thank you.
And a former Golden Apple.
And a former Golden Apple.
I'm Elizabeth Coleman. I'm first vice regent of the Ocala chapter of the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. Thank you so much for having us tonight.
I'm the short one. My name is Tevis Fitzpatrick, and I'm the Constitution Chairman.
And you're going to scoot to your left, that way I can be right in the middle of y'all, okay?
Oh,
Right here.
how exciting.
Okay, so this looks pretty good, doesn't it? This proclamation reads, whereas the United States Constitution has withstood the test of time for more than 2 centuries as our nation's charter of government and the guarantor of our liberties, whereas signed on September 17, 1787 by delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia and presided over by George Washington, we recognize this magnificent document on its 231st anniversary and recognize other founding fathers and their contributions to the benefits we hold so dear as Americans. Whereas the vision of our state-elected officials allows school districts to expand and enhance our students' education of American history and democracy, whereas in doing so, we recognize September as American Founders Month, including Patriot Day, September 11th, U.S. Constitution Day, September 17th, and celebrate Freedom Week, which is September 24th through the 28th this year. Whereas Marion County Public Schools recognizes the significance of educating all our students on the rights and freedoms we have as American citizens, and whereas we have an obligation to reaffirm our rights as citizens of this great nation. Therefore, be it proclaimed September 17th, 2018 as U.S. Constitution Day and the month of September as American Founders Month, adopted this 28th day of August 2018, and of course each of you has signed and dated this as well. So on behalf of the board and Superintendent Mayor, let me present this to all of you. Okay, you're welcome to share some comments if you'd like.
I want to thank you for helping us to continue the work of the DAR. We all are descendants of our forefathers and foremothers who involved themselves in the revolution. They founded this country in the dream that it could be a nation where each person, no matter the circumstances of his or her birth, could realize their hopes of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Bless our children as they pursue these dreams.
Thank you, ladies, very much. Mrs. Coleman, oh, yes, absolutely.
I would like to say that on next week, even though it is Labor Day, we will have a banner that proclaims Proclamation Week, the 17th through the 23rd, which will be on Southeast 25th Avenue. And on the 17th of this month, on Monday, just right across the street at the First Presbyterian Church, we will ring those bells 231 times with the Boy Scouts. We got kind of stymied last year with Irma.
Oh, yeah.
Hurricane
Oh,
Irma.
yeah.
She put a kibosh on everything we wanted to do last year. And then we meet with the county commission on the 18th, and then we have our meeting on the 26th. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mrs. Coleman, if you will email me, I will send you these pictures.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say the Daughters of the American Revolution will also be reading in Marion County Public Schools ABC books about the Constitution and how our country was founded. So we're really excited about doing that as well.
Excellent.
All in celebration of the Constitution.
And happy birthday, Ms. Coleman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms.
The DAR is also going to be doing a special project with Greenway Elementary. They don't know about this yet, but I'll talk to them later.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Mr. Juan Lopez, Director of Psychological and Social Work Services, would like to present an update on the transition of the homeless and needy program.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Superintendent, Mr. Gibbs, and Ms. Martinez-Lopez. The purpose of our intervention today is to really kind of give an update to some of the changes we have introduced to the homeless and needy program since that responsibility came under our supervisory responsibility. And I have with me our homeless liaison, who is Mr. Tom Butler, and my lead social worker, who also going to help me kind of give you an update on where we are. We kind of divided some of the changes that we have introduced, and they will be responsible for some of the practice changes and some of the future directions we go in. I just want to talk a little bit about the structural changes we have introduced. The homeless and needy program used to kind of operate as a kind of an aside from psychological and social work services. Now we have fully integrated that program into the department. And the advantage of that is that we can count them with the entire kind of social work staff and social work assistant staff to not only be volunteers in terms of promoting the mission of the department, but also helping with the day-to-day management of the department. I will be supervising the program directly, but the day-to-day operation will be the responsibility Mr. Butler and two paraprofessionals that are working closely with him. And they deal with the logistic of distributing material needs, supplying to the schools the things they need, like clothing, hygiene products, and things like that. And so they want to make it in a way that is very responsive, that is in a timely manner, and that is staged in a way that it gets to the kids when they need it in real time, rather than going through the whole process of making a request and going forward. So we are introducing those changes, structural changes, that will allow us to be more responsive. We are going to provide as a department the logistic of the bookkeeping and the secretarial support through my secretary, and I will be providing the supervisory role. We have formed a committee of 4 to actually approve larger requests, especially when it comes to financial requests. We have a team that is formed not just by social workers and social work assistants, but also school psychologists, so that the entire department is integrated in the process of deciding how to best allocate some of the resources that we have when a request is made. We are providing monthly reports to the entire department in our staff meetings to foster transparency, and so everybody knows exactly what resources are available, what resources we have at the disposal of the parents and children in Marion County, and they can keep us accountable for how those resources are being used. Every transaction that comes through the department will be approved by me and ultimately by our deputy superintendent when it comes to signing financial resources that will be used to support parents or family in our community. And we are working very diligently in developing documentation and accountability processes that will allow us to meet all the demands for auditing and also transparency that are required for a program that manages funds and resources that are assigned to us responsibly. In terms of the practice changes, I will invite Mr. Butler to talk a little bit about those.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Vice Chairman, board members, Dr. Mayor, Mr. Gibbs, and Madam Secretary. Some of the practices and changes that we decided to develop for the program was more collaboration, more relationships with outside agencies, and sharing of our resources with those agencies. We are starting to work with programs like the ROC, Children's Alliance, the Homeless Council, the COC, which is the Continuum of Care, and the Early Learning Center also. And we also reached out to our faith-based communities and churches to provide resources to them in reference to meeting the needs of our homeless and needy children. Also, we are working with Westport High School Logistics Program, in which we are providing the needed resources in a timely manner to the homeless children and their families. We are collaborating with them and working closely with them to make a turnaround of any requests within 24 hours. Also, making it a priority to work with and provide resources for our turnaround schools, because that's important, because we want those children to feel that they can learn and be able to get the resources and needed clothing for their family also as they come to school. We're also working with those schools to provide clothing and necessary hygiene items for their clothing closet. Also, we plan to work closely with the administration and the guidance department in providing the needs of those particular schools. And lastly, currently we're working toward incorporating the Homeless Needy Program into the Psychological and Social Work Services Department. We need to work with our social workers and make sure that they have our attention as far as meeting the needs of all the children in their schools that they serve.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, Dr. Mayor, Ms. Martinez-Lopez, and Mr. Gibbs. My name's Lisa Panzer, and I am the lead school social worker this school year, and I'm super excited to talk to you about the future direction of the Homeless and Needy Children program. And Mr. Lopez and Mr. Butler have already discussed so many things with you. There's just a tiny little list that I need to talk about at this point. Basically, we will continue going out into the community to garner support for our Homeless and Needy Children program. And essentially what that means is talking with civic groups, talking with government organizations, really speaking with any group who will have us to talk about the needs that our children within the school system have to gain financial support, to gain needed resources for our students within the school system. We also are currently working on finalizing plans and designs for our new Mission Bus Brigade, which will be our new school supply drive. And that drive will begin for our next school year. So when we have all of that finalized, we will come to present that to you. So we're working on we do have a bus that's been donated to us. So when we have the final designs, we'll present that, and we're also working on scheduling the dates and locations for where that bus will be located to collect school supplies for next school year. We also are working on developing a newsletter for our current donors. So right now, when people donate to our program, they get a thank you letter. So we feel like what would be great for them is to get an update on where their donations and those funds are going. So we're going to we're going to create a newsletter that then will go out right now, probably quarterly, but we'd like to get that out to our donors monthly, so that way they can see an itemized list of exactly where those items and funds are going. So that's currently in the works. We also are working on partnering with local grocery stores to develop food items that are needed for families. And those would be fresh food items. So what we currently do is we have dry goods in our food pantries that we're able to get to families. But what we've always seen historically is If we take dry goods out, they're lacking milk, they're lacking eggs, they're lacking fresh bread. So we tend to stop by the grocery store on our way and pick up those items ourselves as social workers or social work assistants. So what we really want to do is partner with our local grocery stores so that we can stop by the store and pick up what I term it as boxes, but literal grocery carts full of food that would be for a family of 4, a family of 6, a family of 8, that we could stop by, pick up a ready-made week full of groceries for a family so they have meals that would include bread, milk, meat, the staples that they would need. So that's something that we're real excited about doing. And also just basically what we want to do is meet the needs of our children. So we know that if children are fed, if they're clothed, and if they have shelter over their heads, they're coming to school and they're ready to learn. So essentially that's the mission of the Homeless and Needy Children program. We know that we're here to educate children. So if we can take care of their basic needs, we can get them into school to learn. So that's all for me. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. One of the things now that is, I've always been impressed with the community bank in Hugh Daly and the I think it was $20,000 this year. In terms of that now, what I heard from you is that you will be giving us a breakdown on how that money is being spent and used from the community bank. Is that correct now?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so that will be coming as a separate item, or that will be coming just with your total program in terms of what you're doing?
Yes, we are sending our donors how their money is being used. We have a committee that will be making decision in terms how those will be allocated, but it will be annually has to be reported for auditing purposes. But we want to keep people informed, and especially the social workers who are responsible for actually being our face in the community, that they know exactly what resources are available. And those donors, like major donors like that, will receive a newsletter that indicates how those resources are being utilized.
And so those have it been coming to the board? Have y'all been getting that information? Have you been? This will be the
If
first.
you are interested in that, we can arrange for that to happen if it is, something that you would like to have. Our plan was to provide that to donors and to have that available at any moment request, that we'll be able to provide an accountability how it has been used up to that date. But if you need some periodic report, we can definitely arrange for that.
Well, the reason I'm saying that, I won't be here next year now, so they can get by on some of you guys. I've been knowing Hugh Daly, and I've seen their work with the school system since they started, I guess. And one of the things I've always been fascinated about it is their generosity. But by the same token, once they leave the board, once they leave this building and hand us the check, I haven't seen a follow-up on what we actually do with the dollars and cents. And I think it would be good if the board would actually know what is occurring with the dollars, because when Hugh Daly come back in next year, somebody can say, this is what we did with it, and this is how we would be informed. And so I just think that would be something I think the board should really.
I agree 100%, because I know theirs is not the only donation, a fairly good-sized donation, and I have always wondered how has that money been spent, and have never been able to get a breakdown on that. So I truly believe that that's a very important piece that the board needs to see, how those dollars are being spent and how it's being allocated. So if you could just periodically, even quarterly, provide us with a donation report, and let us know.
Absolutely. Our goal is to have that information readily upon request, but also not to make it cumbersome. We don't have to collect it. We are developing systems that will allow us to, at any moment, know exactly what we have in hand, where that money has gone to, and we'll be able to provide a report. So we're working on that.
Okay, great.
We will definitely provide a report to you.
And the fact that we are getting things to our children in a timely fashion, thank you. That I cannot thank you enough, because 3 days is too long.
Absolutely. And
3
we are
days is
fully
too
aware of
long.
that. We don't want a kid that shows up, without a coat or with dirty clothes to school to actually wait 24 hours to do that. That's why we are staging resources at the school level so that they meet the immediate need. Because, that's when they need it. So we don't want to put the kids through the process of having
Thank
to
you.
wait. Absolutely.
So we're not going to have portables full of stuff that's not getting used. Thank you.
I have a phrase that, we're going to measure the success of our program for how little we have in hands rather than for
very
how
much.
much we have in hands.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anything?
Just curiosity. Now, we have coats and things at the Education Foundation. Are they coordinating?
Well, I would imagine now, because one works very closely with the Education Foundation, and so our Coats for Kids program, I think they're probably coordinating all of that. Isn't that correct, Juan?
Yes.
Okay.
We are coordinating with any charitable institution that has some impact or serve our children. We are developing partnership with them so we can actually maximize our impact. Because they do have access to resources. For example, right now, we're talking about how do we distribute food items in a way that is timely, because many times we end up, those items get out of date and we have to discard them. And there's no reason why that should happen. If we develop partnership, then we can provide those items that I know are about to be expired to be distributed to our needy children through other means, and we can exchange resources depending on our needs. And we're doing that very effectively right now with the ROC. Like sometimes they have certain items that it's difficult for them to get. We supply, they will exchange item with us when they have some additional resources. So we're developing a very good synergy with all those different organizations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Mayer, you have a turnaround school update for us?
Yes, Ms. Hamby is going to come up along with our area directors to give you the latest updates.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Mayer, Mrs. Martinez Lopez, and Mrs. Prespatino. This evening, like Dr. Mayer mentioned, we have the turnarounds update, and the area directors actually will be sharing these updates regarding attendance and discipline. But before beginning the presentation, which it looks like I might be waiting here, there we go. Before beginning the presentation, I wanted to draw your attention to the first item on the agenda, which is the Oakcrest Elementary School Community Meeting. That is this Thursday, August 30th, and it will begin at 5:30. So as required by the differentiated accountability rule, a new turnaround option plan will be needed to be submitted for next year, and we're required to choose one of three choices. One is either reassignment or closure, a charter, or external operator outside entity. Community discussions will occur. There'll be input solicited through a survey, both on paper at the meeting and also that will be online, to solicit the community's input on what the best choice would be to implement for Oakcrest Elementary if the school does not earn a C or better. So we do need to submit the plan just in case, but we certainly believe that Oakcrest will make the grade this year. So this implementation of this selected choice will not need to be put into action, because together I know that we can succeed. So one of the ways that we believe we'll be able to succeed is how we're all working together at the school level and district level to support our schools. And like I said, the area directors are going to be sharing about attendance and discipline. We're going to start with Melissa Kynard, Area 1 Director, this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Hamby. This is the meeting we all talked about that we would be at for Oakcrest, so please be sure it is on your calendar for Thursday night. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. At this time, we would like to share with you some real-time data where we are progress monitoring with our DA schools and our bottom 300 schools here in Marion County, attendance data and behavior or discipline data. On the next slide.
The clicker?
The clicker's right there. It's right there.
Detail.
Sorry.
Arrow to the right.
Okay, here we go. We have Evergreen Elementary first. This is compared to August 2017, first month of school last year, to the first 10 days of school. We pulled the data last Friday afternoon of August 2018 for this school year. You can see the attendance and discipline comparison. There were a few bus issues that we addressed right away. Mr. Livingston and his staff were all over it. They contacted me. We worked with Ms. Rohra in transportation to address the issues in the first few days. After the first week of school at Evergreen, we were able to address the transportation issues, which helped with the attendance. That was one of their hub bus stops there. And then you can see the discipline comparison from August 2017 to the first 10 days of school this year, a tremendous decrease in overall discipline referrals, also contributing to the strong Tier 1 behavior plan that Mr. Livingston and his team have put into place there, along with Mr. Eller's support from the district office, developing the matrix and working with the school staff to have a strong Tier 1 behavior support plan there. They also have the addition of the school-based behavior tech on our campuses for our elementary schools as well. We'll move into Fessenden Elementary, attendance and discipline there. We show a slight increase for our attendance comparison, and discipline has pleasantly decreased there with the amount of referrals almost cut in half at Fessenden Elementary. It's to be noted there that also their guidance department at Fessenden Elementary is working with their staff. They have weekly progress monitoring meetings for attendance. If a student is absent 2 days in a row, they're calling home, they're making that contact with the parents. What kind of supports can we put in place? How can we help you get your child to school? We need them here each and every day. We'll move into Oakcrest Elementary. Attendance comparison there for you, along with the discipline, side by side, real-time data from August 2017 to the first 10 days of this school year. They are doing something very similar at Oakcrest with those weekly progress monitoring meetings. They are monitoring attendance and discipline weekly as well. Again, they have a strong support team there with the addition of the behavior tech as well. Reddick Collier Elementary, attendance comparison. You can see that we had almost about a 3% increase there from last year to the first 10 days of this school year in August. Discipline comparison cut in half. The behavior tech and dean at Reddick Collier Elementary have been working to be in classrooms, observing classes and students, already coming up with some coaching plans for teachers, modeling strong strategic classroom management plans with those teachers, participating in problem-solving team meetings to get to the real root of the issues, and you can see that it's already been working as the discipline referrals have been cut in half at this point. Anthony Elementary. We have a slight increase in the attendance compared to last year. A nice drop in the discipline referrals for the first 10 days of school, keeping in mind that there will be 15 days total overall in August once we go through this week. East Marion Elementary, increase, huge increase in their attendance. Discipline comparison, again, huge decrease there out at East Marion Elementary. Lots of progress monitoring, lots of conversations. Administrators, support staff are going into classrooms again, looking at what's going on in the classrooms, if they need a management program, if they need some modeling. Again, shout out to Mr. Ellers and his team with the support of the new discipline system we have in Marion County, as well as the introduction of the matrix and having that leveled matrix for especially our elementary schools. It was something that we were utilizing very consistently in secondary, but now it's being utilized at the elementary level, and I think that this data certainly shows that progress. Waimea Park Elementary, slight decrease in their attendance from last year, and discipline, a positive decrease. Again, Waimea Park is progress monitoring. We're making those phone calls. We saw the data the first week of school. It's increased this week. If you were to poll just this week, they're hovering at 98.5%. Of course, we did all 10 days so that you could have more of a real-time comparison, but I pulled it so that we could see are we consistently staying at the 96%? Or, what are we doing to get the kids coming to school? Are we calling home? Who's monitoring that? Who's helping our parents? And at this time, I am going to turn it over to Mr. John Curley, Area 2 Director.
Thank you, Ms. Keinert. Good evening, Board. To move into the Area 2 schools and give a brief overview, and of course not to read all the data to you, but we see the same positive trends here in Area 2 that we did in Area 1. Bellevue Santos Elementary, we're up a couple of percentage points in attendance, and we are down dramatically 10 referrals in the first 10 days of school as well. Moving on to Greenway Elementary, we again continue to see this positive trend, up a couple of percentage points and down a dramatic amount at Greenway Elementary in the discipline area. One of the things that the principal highlighted to me there was that they spent a lot of time, and I witnessed this myself being out there a couple of days in the first week, is that they were practicing procedures, not only arrival and dismissal through the day, but also in the classrooms. And I think this helps a lot. We know that all disappointment is the result of unmet expectations. The students need to know what the expectations are so that they can meet them, and I believe that this is evidence of that. Moving on to Bellevue Elementary, this is another school that I would like to highlight. We also see another increase of several percentage points in attendance and a dramatic decrease in the amount of discipline referrals. One thing that I want to highlight here is that Dr. Varner encouraged every single one of her teachers to make a phone call home to students in her classroom, a positive phone call home. And I think that she specifically highlighted this to show that it was showing a positive effect on classroom referrals. Moving on to Emerald Shores, we again see an increase there in attendance, and we are excited about that. Anything over that 94 to 95% is going to be extremely positive. We do see a definite increase there in referrals, and looking down a little bit, drilling down here, Ms. Houston mentioned to me that of 7 of these referrals were as a result of two students in the school, and then 10 of the other referrals, and that difference right there, were all new to Emerald Shores. So in other words, they weren't accustomed to the procedures and policies there. So they're spending time specifically working with these students so that that trend does not continue. So this is the only area that we saw a marked decrease in Area 2 in discipline referrals in the first 10 days, but she has a plan to address that. Moving on to Legacy Elementary, again, the same positive increase in attendance there and a dramatic decrease there as well. We see a change in administration there, but they have continued their positive work in discipline there. Again, practicing procedures. In speaking to Ms. Murphy there, practicing those procedures in that first week, not only arrival and dismissal, but in the classrooms, she feels led to this dramatic decrease in discipline referrals. We'll now move on to Area 3 and Mr. Ben Whitehouse.
Good evening, members of the board. I am the area director for Area 3, which, just a reminder, is west side of Marion County. That's Dunellen and Westport High Schools and the elementary and middle schools that feed into them, along with Marion Technical College, Marion Technical Institute, and Hillcrest schools. So we have 3 schools in Area 3 that fall into a DA status. All 3 of them are first-time D schools. So you'll see up here we have College Park Elementary, and then we also have Marion Oaks Elementary, and we'll show you Sunrise in just a minute. And you'll notice a similar trend between all 3 of these schools between last August and this August, an increase in attendance at all 3 of these schools, and also a decrease in referrals, and you'll see the numbers there in front of you. So this is College Park, Marion Oaks Elementary, again, same trend that we're seeing here, which is very positive. And Sunrise Elementary, again, decrease in referrals. Obviously, we want to continue to work with Sunrise and what they're doing, but a decrease is always a positive trend when we can see those with discipline. So when I look at all 3 of the schools, what I attribute to the attendance is a real focus on a positive school culture. And I think we know that if we want our students to come to school, we have to create the learning environment that invites them and makes them want to be at school every day. And you'll see these schools have a very strong focus on growth mindset, which I think is a very positive thing for our students and working with them as they work to build their capacity as learners. And you'll also see a focus on positive Tier 1 behavior reinforcement. The addition of the behavior texts, as we've mentioned, have been a really positive reinforcement in our schools. And eventually, note, when I talked with the principals, they also felt that the addition of school resource officers at elementary schools was a positive addition in terms of behavior, because they are able to create positive connections with our students, and they're also able to serve as role models and encourage them to exhibit positive behaviors. So I think we will continue to see these trends at all 3 of the schools in Area 3 going throughout the year. And just to wrap up, as we had a conversation with Mr. James last week, we will continue to provide attendance and discipline data along with other progress monitoring data on a quarterly basis to the board going forward at this point.
Okay.
So we will open it up at this time for questions.
First of all, I want to thank you all for giving me something I can bite into. See, I can look at this, and the next quarter can tell whether what something is going on, whether we're going up or down. So it's important for us to have this data so we can really look at the data, to me, and see if we're moving up or moving down. One of the things that I noticed that you have some people, some of the schools, are doing something that they may need to share with the other schools, because when you start getting to these small percentage points, it's kind of difficult, and it may just be just 1 or 2 small things that they're doing. Just like eventually, the thing I like is that you can tell me if some of these students are repeaters in the area of discipline. So you may want to note that. You may want to note that if this thing keep going up and you're seeing the same kid 5 or 6 times a week, you may want to note that. One of the things that I will say to you, and I really appreciate this, come to school, work hard, and behave, and properly placed. And this is where I think Mr. Lopez had to be in here to make sure that we have our kids that are properly placed. And this will affect the data as well. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Excellent data. We can really tell. Just on the referrals, I just have to play the devil's advocate for just a little bit, because I think we have to ask this question. The referrals are down. Are they truly down? Or are we just not writing as many referrals? Or is that positive behavior, that new behavior model that we have put in place, is it truly attributing to this? Can you answer that, Mr. Whitehouse? I mean, I really, because that question's going to be out there, so let's talk about it.
Right. So I would say 100% wholeheartedly it has to do with our focus, where we're at this year in terms of our changes in approaches to discipline, but also when you focus on positive school cultures, it has a trickle-down effect to student discipline. So creating engaging learning environments where students are actively engaged in the classroom, where they want to be there, they want to be engaged, leaves a lot less time for them to create disruptions and think about other ways to get into trouble. So I think as we see that focus on positive academics, positive school cultures, and positive classroom environments, it's going to lead to both the attendance growth and to the reduction in referrals.
Excellent. Anybody else? Good. That's great information. Thank you so much. I will now ask the school board's attorney to explain the rules governing persons who wish to address the school board tonight.
Good evening. In compliance with Section 286.0114 of Florida statutes, the school board has adopted uniform procedures for public speakers who wish to speak at tonight's meeting, either regarding one of tonight's agenda items or a matter relating to the operations of the school district. These procedures will ensure the public has a reasonable opportunity to be heard on school board and school district matters. A written summary of these procedures is available from the table in the hallway. Public speaker forms are also located on the same table. The completed forms were due to the school board secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. Tonight's speakers will be called prior to the business portion of the school board's meeting in the order of receipt by the school board secretary. Before you begin speaking, please state your full name and address for the record and spell your last name. Each speaker will have 5 minutes of time. However, if there are more than 5 persons who wish to speak, the board may seek consensus to limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes. When the speaker has 1 minute remaining, the speaker will receive a visual notice to complete his or her comments. Speakers may not yield their time to other people. Speakers and meeting attendees are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Therefore, verbal attacks and profanity are strictly prohibited. Pursuant to the procedures for public comments, Item 6, speakers are not to identify specific individuals other than themselves or their child unless the statement is provided 24 hours in advance. If there are matters dealing with student discipline, including expulsions, they will be scheduled at the conclusion of the televised portion of this meeting. Parents may address the board regarding a discipline matter at that time. To ensure student privacy, only a parent or guardian may use a student's first or last name. Identifying references to or identification of other students and/or their families are also strictly prohibited. Thank you for your attention to the board's requirements.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone wishing to speak?
We do. Christina Whited?
Please state your full name and your address.
Christina Whited, 5319 Northwest 10th Street, Ocala, 34482, WHITED. I'm here today to speak with you about the safety of our students. I'm not just talking about my child. I'm talking about the middle school and high school students in this district. On Wednesday, August 22nd, I found out about the code yellow for Westport High School from a coworker because she saw it on social media. The school board never notified me about this until 3:45, 3:50 in the afternoon. This happened at 12:51. I proceeded to call the school board superintendent assistant, and I left a voicemail. I then also proceeded to call the school board PR assistant, and I left a voicemail. I did not get any phone calls back, and still have not gotten any back. All the parents from Westport received a phone call from Principal Cruz at 3:45 in the afternoon. Shortly after that, we received a phone call from Superintendent stating that the Ocala Police Department requested the delay in notification. The Ocala Police Department then posted on social media that they did not request the delay. They gave Marion County School Board up-to-date information. I also saw video of helicopters flying over Westport High School with parents going to the front office because they weren't notified. If the cell phone blocker is taken off and our children can let us know they are safe in school, we would not rush to the school to check them out. In 2000, when Westport was built, there were metal detectors on campus. Where are they now? In 2007, it was brought up by Sue Mosley, and it's documented in the Star Banner from May 23rd, 2007, that all Marion County schools need metal detectors. And Jim Yancey also commented on it at that time. Nothing's been done. This is 11 years ago. Where are we with this? Are the children not important? We need to protect them. They are our future. And we don't need to put armed teachers in classes because that's going to create a whole nother fiasco. The active shooter at Forest last year was talked out of going on the rampage by a teacher that was unarmed, that he knew. If we had metal detectors at all the middle school and high schools, he wouldn't have gotten onto campus. Neither would the young man who was at Westport on Wednesday with a gun. We put our children's safety in the school's hands when they're there. That's it.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of comments. Thank you for your concern. You need to know that our student safety is our top priority. We are working very hard to do the things we need to do to be sure that we get our schools hardened, that our students are safe. The incident on Wednesday, after the Forest High incident, the sheriff of Marion County did instruct the school system that all communication would come through either the Sheriff's Department or the Ocala Police Department. So our PIO was under the understanding that that's what would happen. Now, I can tell you that they are meeting, all the PIOs are meeting tomorrow. I've had the sheriff and I have had a conversation, and we need to be sure that everybody's on the same page with this. So we are working to try to figure out the best way for us to communicate to our parents when a situation is happening, but to give accurate information. And who does that come from, and how does it get disseminated? We recognize that what happened on Wednesday was a concern of parents. I want you to know we are working on all of this. We are taking this very, very seriously. Your child and every child in our Marion County school system is very important. Their safety is our top priority. We are looking at all of the hardening of our schools. We are looking at the dollars on where we're going to get that. So please note, we hear you, we understand your concern, and we are working towards a solution.
Now, what do you mean by the hardening?
Well, the hardening of the schools, the fencing, if metal detectors, if wanding, if single point of entrance, that's all comes into hardening the school. And we're looking at that, and Mr. McFadden and his staff have done an outstanding job in doing risk assessments at all of our schools. There's grant money out there. We've turned in a grant, and so we are working as hard and as quickly as we can. I know that it seems that nothing's being done, but it is being done, and we are doing it as quickly as we can. So thank you for your concern.
Ms. McCall, I have to just step in for just a minute now. One of the things I want to say, and when we're talking about Westport, I may have gotten a call from you or not, but one of the things I'm concerned about, we did have a meeting. I went out to Westport, and I talked with you about it on Friday, and we talked with the kids about what was going on at their school. We talked in terms of, I'll be honest with you, Power Hour. And I specifically said I would not have Power Hour. Simply because as an administrator, I know Power Hour is turning kids loose for 30 minutes or an hour. But what I was told is that the Power Hour is being split.
Yeah, their lunches are actually split now.
Okay.
For A and B.
I got that. The issue I have with this is that as a board, I thought we talked with the sheriff and everybody else about Power Hour being eliminated. And the reason it is because I was concerned about the schools not being hardened. That means that there was not a single point of entry. There was no metal detectors. There's no, the kids can open the door and let people in to the school. See, and this is where I am. If we are serious about protecting our kids, then we need to make some tough decisions here. And when I say make some tough decisions, I recognize the needs of the students at Westport and all schools in terms of a Power Hour and whatever, having their meetings and all of that stuff. But I also recognize this thing is that we have not followed through on our plan to harden these schools. Whether we have a Power Hour at Dunellen, a Power Hour wherever, we need to make some tough stands as a board here that we need to say, hey, we're going to curtail this stuff until we get these schools hardened. And I look at the stuff that happened in Jacksonville. I was looking at, sitting right there when they had two fights while I was out at the school, and I know, board, if we're serious about this, because I know we sat here with the police department and the sheriff, and they said they were concerned about it. And if we are concerned about it, then we need, I know it's not a popular decision, but guys, I know we said, and maybe somebody, I'm listening to this thing, when those guys sat there and said they were concerned about the Power Hour and they couldn't cover it. We split it in half. We split it in half now. but that's still the size of some of our high schools. Because if they got 2,500 and they cut it in half, that's 1,200. And I am, as a board, we need to readdress this issue, because if those kids are out and they're coming in with a gun and we don't have metal detectors, then we need to say, hey, wait a minute, let's stop this thing and do what we said we were going to do. Because I know we said we were going to do that.
I thought we did.
Dr. Grantham, would you like to, I understand we are doing that, or you have a plan or something? So can you address it?
Or we met, Mr. McFadden, Mr. Collins, Mr. Knight, we met earlier this week, actually, was it yesterday, Dennis? Yes, sir. So we found a budget. Ms. King, you were talking about just getting something up, getting a fence up, so we had that conversation. So our plan is to take the money that we've been allocated, plus other monies that we have, and we're going to harden every high school. We're going to buy everything we can buy in a big lump sum, a big group amount, kind of a big discount, and do every high school. And our goal, and we talked to the architects and to the builders, is to have it all done by the end of this year, with Forest being first, and then based off their needs assessment, we'll go after that. But the goal is to get all the high schools completely done this year, Mr. James, hardened, one access point, and then go to the middle schools, and then pick the elementary schools as a at-risk or a needs assessment basis. So we're focused on the high schools right now to be completely done. Our goal was to have Forest done by January. That was the goal. But we're going to have every high school done before the end of the school year.
I understand that. I understand the fact that it will take time and it take money. But I also know that we need to do something about scheduling. If those kids need to have an opportunity to meet with their clubs and all that, it need to be done with scheduling, not turning all of them loose and do whatever they need to do for 30 minutes or an hour and think we got control of them. If you think you got control over 1,200 students with 2 police officers and a wide open facility, you don't. We're kidding ourselves.
What I'll do is I'll get with Mr. McAteer and the area directors, and we'll go look at all the schedules in the high schools.
Yeah, look at those schedules, because guys, I'm saying you can't turn those kids loose in this day and age. You just can't.
You don't like the free time, and you want us to look at that and see what's going on.
What I am saying to you is I heard what those police officers said to us, is that they can't cover that. And if they can't cover it and we're still doing it, who are they, if something happened, who are they going to point the finger at?
And they came here and they took their time to talk to us about it, and they shared with us that that's when the issues happen, the most issues happen at that school. And I don't know why I didn't fall on my deaf ears. I'm not sure where the deaf ears are, it fell on. But I heard them loud and clear say, this is something that's a problem for us. We're concerned about the safety, and we're not safety experts, they are. And I thought that we were ending it. I thought that's what the whole thing was, the students that came last week or last board meeting, and what happened?
Mr. Whitehouse, can you address what's going on now and how we can even make it better right now until we get everything hardened?
So we talked about this over the summer. One of the issues that we have at Westport now is that Westport was designed to be 2 schools originally. And those of you who've been on the board for a while probably remember those conversations. This was designed as Westport Middle on one side, Westport High School on the other. So when they built the school, they built a cafeteria that was large enough to handle 6 lunches. 3 on the middle school side, 3 on the high school side, on opposing schedules, so that high school would eat and then middle school would eat at 6 different lunches. We now have 2,700 students on that campus. If we went back to a traditional lunch schedule with 2,700 and the size of the cafeteria they have, it would require 6 lunches. You can't do 6 lunches in one class period. It's impossible. You would have to do a rolling lunch, which would mean every 5 to 10 minutes you would release another lunch, and you're basically ending up with a power hour situation all over again. So what we came up with was the best way to mitigate that, using a split power hour, so that we're only dealing with half of the students, we're on half of the campus, so we have more eyes watching fewer students to increase the safety.
And Denellen High School Power Hour was eliminated.
Has been eliminated, and they're back to a traditional lunch schedule, but again, we're talking 1,200 students versus 2,700 students.
So the lunch, I understand that obviously is a problem at this school.
Correct.
Guys, that's good what y'all talking about. But when I hear what you just said, that seems a better reason for us to look at what we're doing. Because if you have a power hour, and you look at the fact that you got 1,200 students out there, 1,300, that's the same size as Dunellen, and they can get these things done. I would like for y'all to go back and look at what you all are talking about, because it can be done. And I can't sit here tonight and tell you guys that how to do it, simply because I'm not out there anymore. All I know is I'm listening to what is being said. And I was not going to bring that up tonight, but I was going to get with you all off camera. But when Ms. White brought this up again, I cannot sit here and know that we need to come up with something better than turning those kids loose, and we can't screen them or anything like that. But they're running around in there, and somebody can walk over there, call their boyfriend or something, and they can go pop the door open and things like that. See, this is the thing that's getting me. You know, when we couldn't put all those kids in the patio, in the cafeteria, then we opened up a patio. But we had enough room out there for them. So y'all think of something better. Maybe then y'all can bring it to us. But I don't like to walk out there and walk into a meeting and the board has said power hour is gone, and I come in and I get a split power hour. That make me think that I got to watch what you're doing there. I got to watch it, and I don't like that.
That question, how many students do they have at Forest?
They're about 2,100.
So do they have lunch scheduled properly?
2,100?
So
Yes.
do they have lunches scheduled properly?
They have 4 lunches, which they actually have a larger cafeteria. If you look at the capacity
have-
seating of Forest High School versus Westport High School, it is a larger capacity seating, which is why we tend to use it a lot of times for district meetings when we pull all of our staff together, our principals and assistant principals, because it does have a very large venue seating, so you can accommodate a quarter of the school at a time in that cafeteria.
But you can't at Westport.
Not safely, no. I mean, you could pack them all out into the courtyard and out into the seating area. I was at Westport High School before Power Hour, and I was in charge of discipline. And so manning the lunch stations was part of my responsibility. And when I was there and we had 1,800 students, we had 3 lunches. We had the cafeteria completely packed in, plus the porch area on the cafeteria all the way out to these blue lines that we had drawn that you couldn't go past, and it was packed in. That's 1,800 students. So now imagine that with almost 1,000 more students and trying to do the same thing. You're still going to end up with the same concept that we have now with Power Hour without the academic benefit that Power Hour is providing to those students.
So will you take a look and just maybe work with Ms. Cruz and
Yes.
let's see what we can do at this point, and then work really hard to get Westport hardened, because their student numbers are a big part of the problem.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, we have one more?
Yes. Dr. Marilyn Underwood?
Oh, hello, Dr. Underwood.
Marilyn Underwood, UNDERWOOD, 10562 Southeast 146th Terrace Road, Ocklawaha, Florida, 32179. Good evening, Board, Superintendent. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'll pick that up later. I'm here in part to respond to Mr. James's discussion at the board meeting on 8/14 to establish an employee grievance committee, and in part to make a request of the board. I commend you, Mr. James, for your proactive position, for caring about the well-being and satisfaction of our employees. That's your heart. I've known that for many years. But unfortunately, it's not enough. There's a pervasive culture of fear in Marion County, so much so that some employees are afraid to come forward and tell you that they're afraid. They will not come forward to this grievance committee and air their grievances. The current board policy 6.350 that speaks to grievances cites the existing union contracts as the guiding principles and clearly indicates that the final authority on grievances is the superintendent. So unless you intend to revise this policy and to empower this committee with the authority to make or reverse substantive decisions, The committee will only be smoke and mirrors. The other reason I'm here tonight is to make a request of the board as a unified group to assume the leadership that the voters have entrusted you with. I request that you insist on, as well as be an active part of the development of a comprehensive employment policy across the district, but most importantly, for the group of non-represented employees who have no protection of due process in hiring, demotion, and termination. This is a large group of both school and district administrators and personnel, business and curriculum departments, as well as the managers, supervisors, confidential clerical employees that support them, principals, assistant principals, coordinators, program specialists, executive directors, directors, managers, supervisors, confidential secretaries, administrative assistants, and. Marion County Public Schools is the largest employer in Marion County, almost 3 times the size of the next largest employer. As such, you should be the model of best practice and the standard for exemplary practices in everything that you do. Practices that other employers can look up to and can emulate. If the largest employer can't model excellence, who can? Who should? And if that isn't sufficient reason to step up, well, maybe this is. By the very nature of the function of the school system and what you do and for whom you do it, you serve our students. Your mission is the responsibility of teaching others what excellence is, what it's all about, and modeling those behaviors that manifest excellence. I want to believe that the Marion County School Board does what they do because it's right. It's the right thing to do, not because there is a union contract protecting the majority of our employees or because you're afraid of a grievance. The group that's unrepresented does not enjoy the same benefits guaranteed to the represented groups in the employment process. This non-represented group are the employees upon whom you place the management and development of our schools and district critical functions. The only protection they have is you. Please don't let them down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilyn, I'm going to put you on the spot. I've been knowing you since before I became, well, I know your family before I got into education. I would love to work with you. I would love, if the board will agree, to work with something where we can come up with something that we can help our employees want to work in Marion County and feel that they're getting a good shot. I know I've talked with our attorney about this, and if I can get some information from you and I can give it to Mr. Gibbs, and I'd like to bring something to this board where we can step up and make sure that everybody can have a way in which they can be heard, and we can, and if possible, do something about inequities in our system. I will be contacting you to see if we can get together and work our way through this. Thank you.
And I would like to say one thing to Ms. Underwood. I've asked around to some school boards around the state on grievance committees, and the little bit of checking that it is a farce. And I want ours to not be. And I second Mr. James' request that you help us put together something real, not something that's a farce, not something that just looks a farce, that looks good on paper, but is meaningless. I'm tired of meaningless apologies. I'm tired of meaningless everything. Please, help us do something meaningful.
Well, you know, this really turned around and came back to blindside me. This is not my intent of coming here this evening.
Well, I knew it was.
I know it wasn't. I know you knew that, Mr. James, but you offered me an opportunity to speak to this, and I am here to advocate for a group of individuals who are highly dedicated, highly motivated, highly competent, that have the operations and the well-being of this school district on their backs, and they do not have due process protection. And I think that's a travesty in an employment process. I don't pretend to know anything about grievance committees. I can't tell you that I know how to help you. I know it's a
James?
massive job.
We'll be in touch with you.
Okay, and I have been contacting contacts throughout the state to get some information to help us in this process.
And I have some ideas that have come forward to me that I'll share with Mr. James, and hopefully some of them can be in it too. I think we all have the same goal in mind.
Okay, thank you.
May I have a motion to approve consent agenda items C10.1-C21.2 with the exception of item C18.2, which has been withdrawn entirely from the agenda, and item C19.1 that has been pulled and placed under discussion. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Ms. Boynton.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. James. All those in favor, please vote aye. And opposed, please vote no.
I'm out.
Yeah, I went out too. I had to totally restart. Are you still on, Ms. King?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I've already clicked save. Motion did pass.
Okay, the motion passed 5-0. Okay. May I have a motion to approve Francis Marion Military Academy's school improvement plan with corrective action? Moved by Ms. Boynton,
Second.
seconded by Mr. James. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, we heard their presentation on Thursday. My only concern, although I'm going to vote for their corrective action, is that they have a progress monitoring plan in place that we're comfortable with, so.
And the new principal did email
then
me
it-
after,
okay,
and he
good.
and I are going to have conversation
Okay,
on that.
good.
So I was very
Okay,
pleased with that.
Good, okay. So my vote was there, but it went away.
Who did mine?
Huh?
Mine did too.
Yours did too?
Is everyone yay?
I
Yeah.
did.
Everybody, all those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
There we go.
Okay, motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the uniform assessment calendar for the school year 2018-19? We need a motion. Moved by Ms. Boynton,
Second.
seconded by Mr. James. Ms. King, you pulled this item for discussion.
I did. If we can recall last year, remember testing was a big issue. The amount of time that, especially our elementary schools were doing, I believe 3rd through 5th, or maybe in kindergarten through 5th. And I did reach out to a teacher and, I'm like, well, what are your thoughts on this? And basically, her thoughts were the same as last year. And for example, she felt that the minutes, like the iReady math assessments and the reading assessments, were underestimated. If you look on our, what is presented to us, it shows 45 minutes. We're into school 2 weeks, and she shows that her students have taken 270 minutes on iReady. There's also, we had the
QSMAs assessments from last year. We never did get any data on how that correlated with our FSA testing. Also, she felt that those tests were close to the FSA assessments, and she felt that at some point that the students give up on the testing. And if we remember last year, by March, third graders had taken 20 hours of county mandated test. So with that being said, we know the definition of insanity, and if we keep doing the same thing. And last year, inadvertently, as a board, we locked teachers in to giving these tests, and if they didn't, they would have been insubordinate and been reprimanded or maybe even cost them their jobs. So tonight, I will be voting no on this because we had a 160% increase in our DA schools. So if it didn't work. If we're testing more than we're teaching, it didn't work. So I'm not going to approve this.
Would you like Ms. Sandy to?
She can.
I can certainly share some information with you. How about that? What you are actually before the board tonight is called the Uniform Statewide Assessment Calendar. And it really has some purposes in place. First of all, it's directed by the Florida Department of Education, and it requires us to do three things. And it's by state statute, 1008.22. And what that statute says is because they have directed us to do this calendar, we must complete it, we must publish it, and we must send it to them by October the 1st. This is what you're doing tonight, is to approve this calendar so that it can be published to our website, the Marion County Public School website, and then it gets sent to the state of Florida. We are excited, in all honesty, and I know I've heard a concern, but we actually did on this calendar what you directed us to do. A couple of months ago, at your direction, we were asked if we could reduce the amount of time students spent in assessments. And then you asked us, would we please involve our teachers in the assessments that we are giving our students? This evening, I'm reporting to you that we've accomplished both goals. To begin with, we have reduced the assessments overall at K-12. We actually, on an average now, we are averaging only 1.8% K-12 of a student's school year is in assessments, whether that be state-driven, FSA for example, and or local-driven, that we made the decision to provide. And so we have reduced it from last year to this year. The second thing you asked us to do was to involve teachers. This summer, we involved teachers in grades 3 through 12, where they went through a vetting process of every single question. I repeat, every single question that is going to be either on an assessment given at the local level, a teacher group has vetted and has approved. And if they made recommendations, those recommendations have already been put in place so that when a student sees the QSMA, for example, coming in the beginning of October, it has been touched by teachers in Marion County. What an undertaking it has been, but we are very proud of the product. So when you look at our overall work in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, we reduce the number of assessments, whether we cut an assessment out altogether. For example, third grade science, gone. The CSMA. We are doing some QSMA work, but we actually eliminated the pre-post in science for third grade, for example. We actually eliminated in kindergarten and in first grade, well, in kindergarten, I'm sorry, the KSMA, which was the math assessment. We said you had already purchased iReady for us as a board. Let's use what you have purchased for us. Why are we creating another assessment? So we went to the teachers, we went to the groups, and they said, sure, we're good with what you've done for us. And so we eliminated that. So we are very pleased with what we have done at your direction and what we have accomplished. Now, a reminder that these minutes that you are voting on and/or this packet that you're voting on today is a combination of the state assessments as well as the local assessments. It does not include, for example, ACT, SAT, any of the AP exams. It does not include any of the classroom assessments that teachers choose to implement because those are embedded in the curriculum maps and are not required by state statute. It does not, it assigns to a grade level the course that where most of the students take that particular subject. For example, Algebra 1, 9th grade. We give the Algebra 1 exam, or it is included on this calendar. And we only are required to include those assessments where all students are required to take it. For example, if you're an ELL student and take the ELL assessment, not included on here. So we have worked hard to look at all of our work required of students. I did not realize that we actually have, I think it was, and let me put some glasses on because the number was surprising to me, that we had in a given school year, we have 64,800 minutes in a given school year. That seemed, when you're at 300 minutes at a day times 180 days, 64,800 minutes, and we only assess them 1.8% of the time on an average. That was surprising to me. I was very proud of what we had accomplished. The state says you can go up to 5%, but in Marion County, we have worked hard to get those numbers down to what we believe will give our teachers the data that they need for the teacher-led instruction. It's all about the fact that our teachers need the data so that they can instruct the children to get them where they need to be. So that is an overview of what you were asked to be voting on this evening.
I have a question. My computer
Yes, ma'am.
Pull it up. I don't know. I guess we have to have Adobe or something put in here. Ms. Martinez Lopez. I don't know. There's something, but I can pull it up.
I can't pull the,
I can pull it. I can see hers though. I'm looking at like first grade.
Mm-hmm.
There's no statewide assessments.
No,
but
ma'am, there is not.
First grade we have 390, and then we have 650 for second grade, but the state has none. That seems like a lot. I mean,
Those
we have
are
100
minutes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how many. Okay, so that's how many minutes. How many assessments would that actual?
That actually is only, let me share with you what those are. That is iReady, AP1 for reading, that is AP2 and AP3. And then we have iReady Math, AP1, AP2, and AP3. That's it. And those are given the 3 times a year. They're given in, right now, in August. They're given again in January, and they're given again in May. The reason that we give them 3 times a year, remember, this is for teacher-led instruction. Where are my students? What do they know, and what do I need to do to assist them and toward the standards and mastering what they need to know?
Okay, so in second grade, that's 650 minutes. That's those 3 assessments?
Mm-hmm.
That's
And we've
200 minutes in assessment?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Think about the fact that they are divided into half, and what we actually have done is there's also the DRA, the reading assessment that we give separately to assist on the foundational skills. And so those are included at first and second grade to assist the teachers in terms of the foundational skills that they need to impact their reading instruction of Tier 1.
Okay, so I'm looking at second grade, 650 minutes, and you're telling me that's for 3 periods, pretty much 3 times a year, like first, middle, end.
And yes, for iReady as well as the DRA assessment. Yes, ma'am.
That would be equivalent to like, to get
Overall, for 180
almost
days.
like 3 hours
Uh-huh.
a clip. Well,
For a year, for 180 days, that's all it is. That is all we choose to do at the district level to see where our students are and what we need to do to assist them. So if you take the total number, and last year we were at 855, so we've reduced it down by 1.3%. I mean, we've come way down. And so when you take the total number of, I'm looking at second grade, 650 minutes over, what did I just say? 64,800. We are taking 650 of them, divide that out by 60 minutes in an hour, and you'll see that it's about overall, about, I'm going to say 10 hours.
okay.
And that turns out to be, so if you do iReady for 45 minutes, and I know you said it took longer, and I could give you the reason why it may have taken longer for a student, depends on your achievement level, but the average is 45 minutes, which is what we've included in here, 45 minutes. So if you take reading and math, right now, that's an hour and a half. You do it again in January, you do it again in May, and then you do some reading of your foundational skills, and 10 on an average.
Okay, since we have until October to post this on the website and do what we need to do, I would like for us to just maybe poll some second grade teachers, kindergarten, first, second, some classroom teachers, and say, okay, because you said we've already done some of these assessments
They're
already.
done. Yes, they need to be finished by Friday. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I would be curious how many minutes, if some of the teachers had kept up with it. How many
We
minutes?
have them on a schedule at schools. What we have highly encouraged our schools to do is to place their assessments on a schedule so that no student takes it all in one day. And for example, I'm going to speak directly to iReady. It has what is called a brain break, and you know that you have finished a section and that it virtually allows you time to go, I'm done, and that's included in that amount of time of 45 minutes. Now, what you also need to realize is it's adaptive. And by being adaptive, students that struggle take less time. Students that are more gifted in their learning might take a longer amount of time.
But the teacher is having to deal with this at this time. I mean, the teacher's got children that are taking longer. Who's taking care of the other children while all this is going on?
It depends upon how the schools have set it up, whether you do it by classroom and you have your Chromebooks in the classroom and therefore you are differentiating along the way, or whether you are putting them in labs where you have, as students take the brain breaks or as you are finished for the day, there is other software or other activities that you can work on. Again, we leave that to the classroom teacher to make those decisions what's best for their students.
Okay, well, last year, I had a parent, and then the school backed me up at Shady Hill, that they were going 3 days a week into this lab, and they were there basically 50 or 60 minutes, because it basically was a period that they were in there. And that was 3 times a week. So basically, by the time they got to the lab, I guess that's why they did it for a full period, because they didn't have the Chromebooks in the class. So by the time they got walking to the class, getting in the class, sitting down, this mother was very upset that it was basically an hour 3 times a day.
For what, ma'am?
iReady.
Oh, for iReady now.
To go into the lab.
Oh, is that for the diagnostic or for the
They
instructional?
were going, that was just, it was their week, 3 times a week, and iReady for that full period, because they didn't have Chromebooks, for the ones that didn't have Chromebooks. And so
I can't
that was
argue.
3 hours of time consumed each week
I can't
How are they
argue
doing it
that.
different this year?
I was going to say, I can't argue that particular detail, but we have been monitoring what we call the usage report, because iReady will tell you, if I had the entire team from iReady standing beside me, what they would say is 45 minutes. There's a diminishing return when you get to 48, 49, 50 minutes, because the students are tired, that you have done what
45
you
minutes
can
in a week
accomplish
or
in a
3
given
times?
week in math. 45 minutes a week in ELA. That's what they would tell you, is that the max for any student.
I think that's what it was. I think that they had the math and then they had the ELA, now that I'm remembering. And because they had to go to the lab, it took up so much time walking and everything.
And
that
it
they
may
ended
very
up
well.
being in there 3 times a week for the whole period to get the 90 minutes in. Of the 45 here and the 45 there, to get the full 90 minutes, they had to go in. You know, I would be interested, before voting on this, personally, I would like to, I just happen to know about the Shady Hill example.
Right, and so, you know what, I can certainly volunteer. I will be more than happy to work with the team at Shady Hill, because I would tell you, from my perspective, and I don't know all the facts, it was too much time. And so I can certainly work with them and work with a schedule to see what they've got, because we do not need even though the students are functioning on their instructional level in terms of what their diagnostic told them, that is far too much time for a student. And so I'll be more than happy to do that for you and check in.
But they said to get their minutes, though, they had to do that because they had to walk down there. So that's class time that they're not learning anything except for iReady. They're doing basically FSA questions 3 times a week.
So, Ms. Stacy, can we let Ms. Sandy check into it and see,
And then bring it back to you.
and see what she can do?
I
I
would
mean,
be-
I'm ready to vote.
I'm not going to vote until I get all the information.
Well, that's okay. I'm gonna be in front of you now. I've been on this lady for quite a while, and I know when she had 8 schools and everything else. And when I listen to her explain things, I have the tendency to believe that.
Oh, I believe her.
Okay,
I
and
just don't think
and
it's
I'm not gonna hold her
in
out.
practice.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Yeah, I'm ready, I'm
Okay,
ready
you
to
guys can
vote.
go ahead and vote, but I do want to state again that the Teacher of the Year came before us last year and said we over-tested our students. We have a 160% increase in DA schools. One of the largest complaints was there was too much testing and not enough teaching. I believe even our 4th graders did terrible as a whole. District assessments alone, we're asking them and requiring them, at a minimum, if they don't go over, 1,520 minutes. That they're sitting there taking a test and they are not being instructed. If you guys choose to do that, that's fine, but I want you guys to pay attention to what we were told last year, what our results were. And we were told, I would hear one thing in the schools, and we would hear up here how wonderful and how it's gonna work, and we are number 61. But I will vote no, but I just want you guys to seriously
Well, and I
think
think
about it and
Ms.
consider.
Sandy has said they worked to decrease the testing, is what
You
I'm
told
hearing.
us
And
that
I
you
can't
did.
open my, I can't
Well, you
open it on my
did, you did the science, but, I mean, even the QSMAs, I mean, we never received any information on how that correlated and how it benefited our students.
That is in an upcoming work
Yeah,
session
it
as
is in
well
a
as a
work
board
session.
meeting.
Well, you're
So
not
we-
informed now, and you're gonna vote on it. It's upcoming, but you're gonna vote it in.
Well, part of the
Lock 'em
problem,
into it.
I'm sorry, I overspoke, but part of the problem is the FSA results have just come, really, school grades and FSA results have only really been out since, what was it, the 1st of July, and so we're only 7 weeks away from it, and our analysis is basically done. We're just awaiting our time to come to before you. And what you're going to hear us say is there is a strong correlation between FSA results and QSMAs. You are going to hear that. And but we'll be more than happy when it's our turn. We'll be more than happy to share that particular piece of data with you.
So how much have we decreased it from last year, the minutes?
Is your question, I can go by grade levels if you want me to. For example, we decreased kindergarten by 0.6 of a point. first grade 6/10 of a point, and
Miss
so on.
Sandy, I don't know what 6/10 of a point means.
Oh,
Can we go by that?
I'm sorry, thank you.
I have no idea what
All right,
that means.
so we can do this then. All right, I was trying to be, we went from 665 minutes in kindergarten, and we're down now to 410 minutes, which is a decrease of that percentage point. I can continue if you'd like. First grade, we went from 855 minutes, we're now down to 390 minutes. We went from 855 to 650, 1,895, which is third grade, because now you got the state assessments included. We're now down to 1,580, fourth grade.
How much were you at before?
1,895, and we're now down to 1,580. In fourth grade, we were at 2,075. We're now down to 1,960. And in fifth grade, we were at 2,145. We are now down to 1,950. The reason fifth grade is so large is that is where the fifth grade science state assessment is. You want me to continue?
No, I think we're more interested in elementary school.
But could you point out, though, the increase? We talked today about that.
That's why I wondered
I
whether,
think-
we did increase our middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And you may want to know why. We actually went in 6th grade from 1,415 to 1,540. 7th, 1,750 to 1,800. 8th grade, 1,575 to 1,650. And you may want to know why we did do that. Well, the reason why we did that is because we heard loud and clear that our teachers wanted tools to help them drive their instruction. And so we came together with the support of our teachers, and we developed with their input many committees of teachers, many hours of work. They now have, and it's very targeted to what we call the CSMAs, and those are for non-state assessed subjects. For example, you'll see social studies on here. You'll see PE on here. You'll see CTE on here. We actually were asked, and we provided for our teachers an opportunity to look at where the students are when they walked in the class and where they need to go to assist them, so at the end of the year there is growth. The whole goal is growth. And so we provided the pre-post model for our teachers to determine that level of growth. Hence the reason why you see the increase. And that has been the effort of not coming from you, but from our teachers asking for that level of support. So we responded and provided for them what they needed. Also, while I'm bragging, we did the same for high school. We provided many CTE courses for our high school teachers, some that have never had that level of support before. And so now they're in the process of giving those exams. They're written to their standards, and now they can see what do the students know and what do the students need to know, and where should my instruction be driven. So we've provided them those tools.
All right.
Oh, I think about that. In Florida, all these rules and all those that want us to do, I think by the time you look at that, I think and I know that you really did I was looking at it, I was like, oh wow, this is different, and I was like, okay. And I went to the middle school, I said, yes, they need right there. And I understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying what the teachers told me. They're the ones
Yeah,
that are living it. So they tried to tell us last year and they were ignored.
But really, it's a lot of assessments and the time of it for the teacher too.
You realize these are if you look at third graders, they're 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
And spending hours of testing. And then we're upset with the teachers when the students don't perform.
Right.
So what is the pleasure of the majority of the board? Shall we vote on this?
I'm prepared to vote on it.
I'm prepared to vote on it.
Why don't we, because when we talk, it's about time for them, you know, so many.
Well, they have
don't you
until
think?
October. They have until October to
So
get.
we have
But the
on,
plan, I like the plan that we had, that calendar that we have.
The only wiggle room that we truly have on this at this point, when you look at it, state assessment, there is no wiggle room. When you look at the local assessment, all we basically are down to is, ready. So what are we going, I mean, if we, the rest of it is all teacher-chosen assessments. And if we're going to, and various EL, for students, for example, I mentioned the ELL students, some of those, or kindergarten flickers, some of those that are directed. But as in terms of a district, we're down to just, I'm going to say just, it's not just, it's very important work that we're doing because it's all about teacher-led instruction. And I guess I am saying, if we're going to assist our teachers in giving them the tools they need to drive the instruction in the classroom, what resources do they have that are written to the standards that will assist them in making those instructional decisions for kids?
okay.
Okay.
Okay, one more, and then I'm going to call for the question.
Okay, since there's a couple of us a little conflicted here about some of the information, I am fine with you calling the question. And if we have if it comes down with a majority vote and a couple against, I believe that will send a strong signal. And we're doing a Mr. James. Mr. James, I'm going to send a signal that we're watching, and I want you to prove Ms. King and me wrong.
And how would you like me to
We
prove
want
it?
it to be what it says and not be more.
So on,
I see. You want me to live by what I've
so
said?
September
Oh.
20th.
They're already not.
September 20th, we have, that is the workshop where we will talk about assessments. That's what I have down here. I think it was part of this.
Oh, and that is probably the comparison of QSMA data to
Yes,
the.
yes. So
FSA.
we want to look at that, and we want to add some assessment updates. And how much, I would like for you at that September 20th, since we have already had that first I-Ready, I would like to know what the average time was spent. I'd like to know what that average time was spent. So I'm going to call for the question.
I don't even want just the average time. I want all the minutes spent on a class, like a teacher that's got 18 kids, like what was the minutes spent? Not the average per child, no, the minutes spent. So I know how much she was inconvenienced by having to do this, by not being able to teach her students because she had some of them that's still in limbo getting tested. Okay, so I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the question, and we're going to vote. All those in favor of the assessment calendar, please vote aye, and I don't have it up here anymore.
I don't have it up there.
So I'm voting yes.
Yes.
I actually was gonna say we want to table it. I was really gonna say to table it because.
There it is, right there.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, we called the question, so we need to vote on it.
I'm ready to vote.
I think we need to have
Stacy? I was able to vote. Did it not come through? Oh, clicked it.
we can come back and talk some more information, right? She already asked for, she will have some more information, so.
But once we vote for it, it's the calendar.
It's a calendar. No, we can.
So what is your vote, Ms. Boynton? We're waiting on you.
Why?
Did you vote?
And I already said, yeah, because I had looked at it and that's what we need, but now. Is it still there?
The 3-4, the vote passed 3-4-2 against. Ms. Sandy, I think you understand that there is a concern, and we need to really watch the minutes of the testing. Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the following cash and tangible donations that have a total value of $3,550? Sports equipment valued at $1,000 to Bellevue Santos Elementary from Good Sports, Inc., $1,300 to Hillcrest Public Schools from Jeffrey L. Saylor, CPA, PA, $1,000 $250 to Vanguard High School from Ocala Orthopedics. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James, seconded by Ms. Boynton. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you need me to vote for you, Mr. James?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. Nothing like voting for me.
Motion passed 5-0, and I will thank our donors tonight. I would like to thank all of them for their continued support of our schools, and your help helps increase all of our students either academically or through our sporting events. So thank you all. The next administrative briefing and work session is scheduled for Thursday, September 6, 2018 at 9:00 a.m. The purpose of the work session is to discuss the renaming of Forest High School Stadium, legislative agenda, technology plan, and the Young Parent Program. I will now ask if there are any concerns and comments, and Ms. King, we will start with you. I know everybody's ready to get out. You have none? Ms. Stacy?
Pass.
I think everybody's ready to get out. I do have, can I share this?
Absolutely.
Well, it's not official, but we just got a note that the referendum is passing by 72%. So we're, want to get out and watch those votes come in. So,
And we'll say thanks to Officer Wissinger.
absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There being, do we have any student expulsions? Oh, okay, good. Dr. Mayor, do you have anything quickly?
We'll just say thanks to Officer Wissinger. We want to mention the passing of John McCain, a great American hero, and we'll save kudos for next time.
Perfect. Okay, there being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Ms. Boynton. Second by Ms. King. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 7:37.